United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, a nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start with the consent agenda. Any questions on the minutes from the last meeting? On the warrants?
On the warrant, you'll see we're starting to save money on the phone bill finally. No more Lumen, and we went from probably 2,300 a month to 670.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really good. What was the gym thermostat?
The gym was like heating all the time. Had to have the thermostat in the, how's it? Investigate. Oh, okay, 6.
It would not turn off. It would just run and run and run and run and run and run.
What that was like. That's a boom show. Transportation contracts, gym approvals. Any questions from the board on these items? If I could get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to our guest comment section. Members of the public are encouraged to comment during this time regarding items not listed on the agenda. The chair will seek public comments on agenda items as they occur. By law, the board cannot take action on matters discussed during the public comment portion of the meeting, but may include a matter raised during this time on a future agenda. Board would like to remind everyone to avoid commenting on private personnel matters, private student matters, and pending legal matters. Any guest comments? Well, it's nice to see you all. Moving on to our first action item, girl basketball coach. It's like 4th through 7th. Any details on it?
So that is for Mr. Sylvius to coach grades 4 through 7, and that is a combined team this year because we didn't have enough for 2 teams.
And do we get a background check?
Yeah,
Yes, he coached last year.
And do we background check annually or?
every 2 years.
Any questions for me? Comments on that? No? Okay. If I could get a motion to approve Andrew, is it Sylvius? Yes. I just want to make sure I'm saying it right.
I will make a motion to hire Andrew Sylvius as a 4 through 7 girls basketball coach.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on, policy 700, second reading. Okay, policy 700, we were discussing 17, right? Yeah, we were discussing, we had the county superintendent at level 3. And we, I had talked to him and he was willing to do that. That wasn't a problem for him. MTSBA reached out to me, uninitiated, and said, pump the brakes. The problem you'll have is any complaint that goes through the school that a person maybe isn't satisfied with the school board's decision goes to the county superintendent. So if we
Based
take
on that policy.
based on the law, so even though he was very willing, they're advising against it.
Okay. So he's still willing to obviously serve in the capacity of a resource, but not as a direct report with the policy.
Yeah, it's, I guess it's still advised for us to have them on there.
All that makes more sense.
Yeah. So if I could get a motion to accept our second reading of policy 1700.
I'll make a motion to accept policy 1700.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
We
we have resolution calling for a trustee levy mail ballot election.
So if we have an election, this allows us to have one. So the first one is just the resolution saying that we are gonna have a trustee election, and then the second part is that it'll be, if we have one, it'll be mail ballot. And we have, we'll talk about it later.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a
It's on
follow-up
the-
under information.
Oh, well,
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on for our information items. Follow-up discussion, curriculum rubric.
So I asked for the curriculum committee to meet together to come up with a rubric of really what our expectations are for specifically right now, social studies curriculum, and kind of then we can incorporate what the board wants to see in social studies and also what teachers think is really important. It gives us more of like a focus and some things to just check off as we look at those. We got a set of social studies curriculum sample, and as I was talking to the middle school teachers, it just kind of became apparent that we needed to really focus on what we did want, and maybe a curriculum rubric would be helpful with that. So we're meeting next week. I don't expect that to all be done in one meeting, but that'll give us a start on that, and then we'll proceed forward. But we have several sample rubrics to look at, and then we can just tweak those based on what we're really interested in.
From the curriculum committee from the board.
And anyone else from the, is welcome to come, it's open to the public, so we also put it on the update, on the dojo to let the public know that they can attend that too. So hopefully we'll get some input.
Okay, moving on to our 8th grade trip update.
I'm gonna do this for Matt. He was scheduled to be here and then got called away for a family thing. So he created this for you. Can I just pass it that way? And it's based on what they did last year, and then he's updated it to show where we are this year as far as who's been contacted. Everything has already been scheduled. The only thing we're waiting on right now is a quote from the bus company. So we've requested that, and he thought he actually would have it by now, but he's hoping by the end of the week that he'll have it. Oddly enough, we've talked about whether or not we should get another quote, and then I just ran over to get the speaker, and a lady walked in with her card about a bus. So I was like, oh, well, we might call you for a second quote. So you can see that under the schedule, he left the same for this year. He thought that maybe next year after they do it once that there might be some tweaks or updates, but he's kind of let the kids also take part in that. And there were a lot of things like you'll see the Phillipsburg thing that they didn't really want to change. They wanted to be able to go do that. So, but under finances, you'll see where he started, and they started $1,000 less than they started with last year. But currently their balance is $5,900. They also have several events still coming. So they still have the auction, the candy, which is happening soon, the candy bars, and then the raffle, which he did mention that they are ordering the tickets for the raffle. Then they'll continue doing concessions for girls basketball. They have concessions at the track meet, and then also the fishing derby, which is in late February. If we make the same amount that we made last year on all of those events, that would put the account at about $20,500, which is right on track for what they need. Last year's was $19,852 in expenditures. One thing I asked him about was when he was reserving things, did he notice a big difference in prices? Like, had things really jumped? And there was very minimal. He was just concerned with the bus since we didn't have the final quote, whether or not that would increase. And he broke it down so that you could see about how much was raised on each event. So that'll be our goal for this year too. On the back, he just gave you a list of who will be attending, males and females, and then we do not have background checks for all of them yet, but we will get those before the trip. I asked him to do this early since we were right down to the wire last year. He did say if you have any questions, that I'll just take notes and then he'll get back in touch with you if you have any questions.
Questions on that? Trip update. Anything else? Nope. Legislative summit up.
I don't think we had this on here last month, but I guess we didn't. So the legislative summit was just where we, Amanda came as well, and we met with a bunch of legislatures from around the state about priorities for districts and, even administrators and then for schools. So, and then kind of what they're pursuing versus what we really want to see them pursue. We had concerns about some new homeschool laws and money regarding homeschool, whether or not that would take away from public schools. So I thought it was a great conversation. There were 9 representatives there, from all over our region, and I felt like they gave good feedback, and then they also supported us. They did say the importance of being present at those events. So, the first major legislative session, or one that they said that they could use support at, is January 29th in Helena. And they did mention the importance of just people and numbers, when they're trying to ask things. I don't know if you have more.
They said that 3% inflation cap doesn't work for public schools, so they were gonna try to look at that. Senator Fuller is the one that's taken the STARS Act to the floor, and he said he thinks that will pass with strings. I remember him kind of emphasizing that.
Yeah.
That one's gonna be really important for our school to watch, because they're gonna double, if it passes, they'll double the quality educator pay for all certified staff plus admin plus business manager.
That's in their first 3 years.
So that's gonna be important for our school to have that, so we can start increasing base salary to. It's still going to be too low, but.
And it's fully funded for at all levels of classified
They're
or
only,
certified.
the only thing they're doing is they're gonna double that qualified educator pay and then see what magic you can work with it.
There's been talk that
It's a whole nother thing.
normal salary schedules, if you're low, they're gonna have to be creative. You have to be creative how you do it. Because a lot of the small rural schools can't afford to put their base
No,
on there.
that's always been the problem with that.
And so it's not mandatory, it will be optional if you want that extra educator payment. If people are thinking, well, the cost out for the salary schedule isn't
It doesn't.
equaling
You
the extra
can't.
money. So it's a catch-22, and some people are just having to be real creative.
The hard part too is that bigger school districts are saying that it's gonna benefit their budget, whereas smaller schools
Yeah,
are struggling to figure out how we're gonna make that work.
it's an unfunded that looks good. Historically, we'll see what they do with it, but it's a lot of lipstick.
Yeah, so, Sharon, I know we're just starting in January. I don't know if you've had time to start plugging numbers and see.
Not till February.
Yeah, it's too soon, but we're well aware of it, and we're trying to see if we can, what we can do. We're definitely trying.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna look at those numbers with us.
Of course.
Yeah. There's a little discussion about the transformational learning grant that I thought was kind of cute, because they were talking about that PAX good behavior game. I just thought that was coming in. And yeah, the legislators asked that we show up in Helena, which I totally understand is easier said than done.
There were a couple legislators that requested further information from districts on, primarily on early learning. So if you're offering a preschool program, and if you're not too. And then also, there was a very vocal legislature that was interested in whether we were teaching the Constitution. So we did provide them with all the information for all of our districts on what grades we teach the Constitution, and then also whether or not we have early learning. And then if you do, they just wanted some numbers from that.
Was it a fairly cordial event or was it a bit contentious?
Yeah.
Because it's sometimes been contentious.
Yeah, it's kind of just a roundtable a large roundtable discussion, and yeah, I thought it was pretty positive overall.
The co-op hosted again,
No,
Flat Electric.
yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Location, yeah.
Principals report. Christmas program review.
Yeah, so Tika put on another great Christmas program, so thank you, Ms. Counts, for doing that. At the end of the program, there was a grandparent that approached me that had flown in from Arizona, so that they could be here, and they were just singing the praises about the program, and I was like, wait, can you stop right there? And I went and grabbed Tika, and I was like, you need to tell her, not me. I mean, I was glad to hear it, but I was like, she deserves to hear this, so, it was just, the grandparent, her compliment was just that Tika gives them so much space to just be natural and have fun on stage, and she thought that was so fun. So I was like, wait, I want you to tell Tika herself. So I tracked her down and was like, here's the lady who needs to know this. So it was fun to hear a grandparent that was just so excited, and our kids love that program too.
Yeah, they do. They're very stoked.
Yeah.
Is it today? Nope, I'm just putting up decorations. It's gonna take me 2 weeks, okay?
The next is the principal's report was just an athletics update from MHSA, and I know that usually these things don't really affect us at our level. It's more high school. But we had MHSA come and present at a admin meeting recently, and there was one thing that was on their agenda that will go to their board meeting on January 20th. And that is that they want to remove a section that says students cannot play high school sports at the same time as middle school sports. They're going to remove that so that our 8th grade students would be allowed to play high school sports at the same time as they're on a team here. I was not super familiar with all of the event calendars as far as high school versus us, so I talked to Mary a little bit about that. I kind of gave her the rundown of the whole thing that they told us, but that's one that I just think you'll be hearing about more, so I just wanted to make you aware of it since it would affect some of our students as 8th grade. And there are some overlaps that'll probably happen, and that we would still have to figure out, like, if there's a game or event here, but also at the high school, like, where do they go? What do they do? What takes priority? So I just feel like that's something that will be discussed, especially after this MHS meeting on the 20th of this month. In the past, 8th graders have been allowed to play, but not at the same time that they're playing at the middle school. So that's just something that's on their agenda to change this year. They do have it. I have their whole meeting agenda packet, but it was 10 pages. I'm happy to share it with you if you're interested, but that was the main one that affects non-high school districts.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with that, because I contacted the high school last year to see if Lola could play on the high school team. And they don't allow younger kids to come in. They only reserve it for the high school kids.
And do you know if that's by the high, because I thought if they were part of MHSA, they were under their guidelines, but I don't know. No, I can find out more. I'm not.
I mean, that could be beneficial for us, like this year when we have one 8th grade student who wants to play basketball or whatever, that they could transfer to high school team, but whether or not Flathead will allow them to. This year they had 60 boys try out for the freshman team.
I
feel like I'm sure
They should be allowed to try out in middle school, for the middle school basketball teams, they offer the same sports.
Yeah.
I think Flathead is just trying to on it.
No, they won't do that though. They try to go to Glacier. They just
They are
need to
the
be,
theater for
sometimes
Glacier.
we need to cap the out of district kids. So they can rebuild their team somehow.
What's gonna happen to you?
Okay, yeah, because you're gonna be on the school board. Or Flathead, right?
So that's just something to keep on your radar, and I'll let you know after the January 20th meeting what was actually decided on, because that has not been voted in yet. That was just something that I thought, oh, that could affect us, and there has been some concerns too about how much class time they would miss here if they're also playing on a high school team, or how much class they would miss in the middle school.
Did they talk about, like a requirement or either school saying you have to choose one or the other? Would that be allowed?
They didn't, they didn't discuss that. I did not hear anything about that. And I think what will have to happen is that they'll have to make the decision at MHSA and then it'll trickle down to the districts and we'll find out more of how if each district's gonna handle it differently or, yeah. So it's just something to keep on our radar.
I mean, freshmen have 6 a.m. practice, so I guess they do 6 a.m. and comes
There's 4 parents that have to transport 6 a.m. practice kids. That's a lot. Facilities update, the bathrooms in the gym were worked on. But there's still a part that has been ordered. However, there has been some improvement. We did notice it after break that there was some snow, but it could be that it was also just closed up for a while. And so it wasn't entirely flushed out of the system there. The front stairs are being worked on, so we'll have it at the bottom. You can see where the salt has run. There's hardly any metal left at the bottom of some of them, so we're having that replaced, and it will be wood this time. It is it metal? Oh, you did. I saw you measuring it was wood, so
Yeah, I
just.
built wood templates, so then I can fabricate them and bring it
Oh,
up.
wow, perfect. The ceiling in the gym has like, John, what is that stuff called on the ceiling? That's
I don't know.
tape. That's what I'm saying. Duct tape, but it's.
Laminated teams, the tape on the seams is failing, and we're gonna have to get some sort of lift device that won't damage the floor in there to do that. And when we do, we should clean the snot out of the whole thing up there, change any bulbs, because the cost of the machine's the worst part.
But you can see that it's just starting to fall. I thought there was
And then
more
it's
property.
after break, went, oh, he dropped quite a bit, I mean, it's hanging.
We do have a parent that rents lifts. That kiddo goes here to the school.
Is it that first place on the right as you're going?
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
his
know. He's
granddaughter
got
that
a
comes
lot
here,
of
but
stuff,
he's
yeah.
pretty much the dad.
Contact number,
Donate.
yes.
Yeah, he might donate. They're pretty good about that stuff.
So that's Sam.
Jude.
Oh, okay.
And I was kind of looking for leak marks as well, and I don't see anything, because I don't know what the material is that's on the ceiling. I know it's not like sheetrock or anything like that, because otherwise we'd have noticed, and it probably would have fallen by now,
Probably polished.
so.
But it has a barrier where you wouldn't be able to see the leak coming through unless you like get in them.
I know of a parent whose company owns one of those, so I can
Yeah.
also ask. on
Big
that.
thing is we get the right tires so we don't damage that floor. Otherwise, we'd have to get sheets of plywood and move them all in front of it.
Do we sell that big floor mat?
Yes, we do.
'Cause I was gonna say, we
Okay, I'm unaware of that, but yes, anything like that might be.
Yeah.
yeah, we have one that goes on the gym.
All that to just say that that's something we're working on. It just started appearing after break. As far as I didn't know about it before that, but a couple people have said,
A little bit,
okay,
it's really noticeable.
it's become a little more obvious since break. So, that's all I have as far as this goes.
I think we'll get a fiber material and glue it on, just so we don't do this again in 2 or 3 years.
We're gonna move on to the trustee nomination date.
So, the election is in May. Nomination forms can be turned in until the end of March, and to date, we have no forms turned in. So if you know anybody, let them know. It's a 3-year commitment. If we have a vacancy after March, then what'll happen is the board will appoint a community member for 1 year. And then at the end of that 1 year, then if that position is now a 2-year position. And so how that'll work. So yeah, if you know anybody might be interested. It has to be a resident registered voter.
Yeah.
Titles.
Do you have any applications out?
No.
Should chance to read them.
Not long and hard.
Letter of resignation, Shannon Martin.
So I have officially decided to resign, so I'll finish this contract and not pursue it. No.
We did receive your letter in the board. Business manager signature.
So I am having surgery on the 20th, and I'll be out 2 to 3 weeks. But I would like permission to work from home to make sure people get paid. and get the board meeting ready and just kind of keep up on stuff, so. So I just want to make sure that's okay if I take some work home.
She also promised to have her cell phone on. while she's
Yes,
at
my
home.
phone will be on all the time.
You just put on speakerphone all day. Is that something that we need just as a formality that we need to vote on? Or is that just something that
I'm
the
just-
board president can
Yeah, I'm
work
just
out?
letting you
with
know, I'm gonna take some work home.
Okay.
That's okay.
Actually, I will write to Dr. Motion. That's a little above our pay grade. Make sure that if you're working from home, that you're not taking sick leave.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. If you're, when you're working, if you're working 8 hours doing payroll, then there wouldn't be as a sick day for that.
Yeah, no, I'll keep track of hours and what I don't, well, if I'm not working, definitely I'll use sick leave.
Just, it's telling myself. Letter of retirement. Ooh, Miss Sharon. We should have canceled this board meeting. Anyone else?
It's like, wait, she's driving away because she said it's.
It's been almost 30 years. And I found out that I can retire actually in November, but I'd like to wait until after all the payroll taxes and stuff in January. My husband's retiring at the same time. I think he showed up to support me, but actually I think it's so I don't change my mind. Yeah. Generation I'm seeing, and it's time. It's time for me to go and get fresh ideas, fresh faces, and there are some things to consider that I put in my letter. You know, depending on my replacement, and also with the sick, you know, I'm really passionate about that 75%. So something to consider within the next year. But yeah, I mean, I will do everything I can to make the transition easy, and you know, like I said, there's some things to consider in it, but I'm not going to say all that. So yes, wow.
Well, congratulations.
Hardest seconds to say.
Yeah.
I think this would probably, I had a few.
Thank you.
Classified, and so I got that going, and then I bought that year and a half back, and I looked back and it was $1,200. And the board was gracious enough to pay for that, and then when I looked at a couple years ago, buying another year, $50,000. So I really encourage anybody, buy what you can when you can, so, anyway, that's where we're at.
I know, it's not an action item.
Bring focus. So February 12th is our next regularly scheduled board meeting. I'm asking the board if you could do that evening meeting, because we have a agenda item that I would like to not have to close the after school program. And I believe that runs until 6 o'clock. 5:45. So
That's when they close, so. No, we're not usually. I don't think they do, yeah.
well, I was 6 or 6:30.
Yeah.
We have 6. Yeah, 6. Okay, so our next board meeting will be February 12th. If I can get a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.